Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the SoCap Improv Comedy Podcast. My name is Ralph. I'm the owner and artistic director at the SoCap Improv Comedy Theater in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. If you're in the area, please come and take a workshop. And if you're not, or if you are and you don't want to do that, reach out. Tell me that you are enjoying this or that you are not. And if you have like an idea that's like, Ralph, what you just said about that thing, that's stupid. Oh, please let me know. Because maybe you're right and I'd learn something. That'd be great. I love learning stuff. I'm always willing to entertain that everything I say is completely nonsense. It's complete nonsense, like that last sentence. Anyway, I do love to learn through disagreement. So if you have a disagreement, let me hear it. And then maybe I'll ask you what you mean by it. We can have a conversation, which would be lovely. Um, there's many different definitions of improv. I do like I see on YouTube sometimes the 5 levels of, here's I'm going to explain like a astrophysicist defines gravity in 5 levels, like from kindergarten up to postdoc. And I think improv is the same. Like there's simple definitions and complex definitions. But I think one of my favorite sort of operational definition, like what is it? What is improv? What is it at its base? I say improv is play. And when I say play, I don't mean like board games or sports. Not that those things aren't wonderful, they are, but they have stakes, right? When you play chess or badminton, you probably want to win, unless you're playing with really good friends or children, your own children or something like that. And it's about something else. But generally, they have stakes. Whereas improv, there is no there's no stake at the outcome, right? The value of improv is in the doing. The journey is the destination, if I can use that old hackneyed phrase. But it's true. Like the point of improv is to do it and to have that connection with other people, in my view. So, as adults, and I'm talking about adults, improv is playing together. And it's like the imaginative play we did as children, dress up and pretend. It can be exaggerated, it's silly, and it's not real in the sense that, when we improvise that we're in a war room, it's not a real war room, right? Or if we're in a business and somebody's just had a bad meeting, there's no real meeting. That's not real. All that's real is the emotions that we create and the games we play. Anyway, and that exists on stage or in a classroom and also in real life. Like I have, a lot of funny friends, improv friends, and we're very playful all the time. Even my 12-year-old daughter, when she does something that slightly annoys me, like not bringing her dishes to the sink at the end of dinner, I'll say, well, this means one thing. I'm going to sell you for medical experiments, which she laughs at. And then she threatens to call Children's Aid on me and have me taken away in chains. So that, you know, like my examples about improv on stage, those aren't real. I don't really intend to sell her for medical experiments, and she knows that. And she's not really going to call Children's Aid and have me taken away in chains. These are exaggerations. They're playful. They're not real. And it's like you're with friends and you call each other the worst names. And it's like, that's it's a badge of honor. Like that's like it's saying that the subtext is we're so close. I can threaten to murder you, and it's hilarious and it's fine. And that's play. Flirting is play. Hanging with your best friends, that's play. Generally, not always, but that kind of like hanging around, banter, laughing, that's play. And that's what for me improv is. It's just, I guess, more structured, or it's more, I guess, more structured, more presentational, might be the better word. Anyway, so when we play, and for me in my line of teaching, uh, we typically do like scenic stuff, kind of like I think not a soap opera, a sitcom, situation comedy might be sort of the best sort of example of what my improv looks like. Scenes have that kind of loose 3 act structure. And within that, there are characters, and characters in scenes are heroes, there are villains, there are mentors, there are like other kinds of characters, the wacky neighbor, whatever, and so there's many different roles that one can and may need to adopt, depending on what the scene is. Right? The scene tells us, we inform what the scene is, then the scene tells us back, oh, this is what's going on. This is where you need to slot yourself in order to be of service to the scene, to the moment, right? So that means that for us as an improviser, we have to be very flexible to take on many different kinds of roles. Oh, I can't just always be the hero. I mean, you can be, you can do whatever you want, but that's going to really limit you and limit the people you're playing with. And, it's going to really impact on the kinds of scenes you can do and all kinds of things. However, at the end of the day, you can do exactly what you want. But if we're going to be flexible, sometimes, you have to be mean, you have to be sympathetic, you have to be vulnerable, maybe even pathetic, like all these different things, or a hero, like all these different things. And the topic I want to talk about today is vulnerability. And often it's essential, I think, for playful improv. Like it's good to be able to develop your sense of vulnerability. What's vulnerable for you? And I bring this up because I had 2 recent examples in classes, both similar, in which it was a male and female character, and the female character, they were having an argument, and the female character made a comment about the lack of the male character's, let's say, size and sexual prowess. So in one case, the male character said something about like, I have a small attention span. And the female character said, oh yeah, and what else is small? And he went like, everything, especially down there. To which everybody laughed at. And then in the other case, it was a female saying to the male character about his level of incompetence and what else was he incompetent. And she said she suspected he was very incompetent in the bedroom. And he said, oh, you have no idea. I have no idea what's going on in there. I have no idea about any of that stuff or even why people want to do it. And again, it brought a lot of laughter, right? And, they're bold, they're honest, they're also surprising, but they're also relatable, right? They're relatable in that, those are things that without context, if someone said that, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's like, I'm sorry. Or, we certainly wouldn't laugh at it. I mean, we might want to laugh at it, but we wouldn't laugh out loud. But because we knew both these male characters were very, very, let's say, meek, vulnerable, weak, it made sense. So we laughed at, oh, of course they would be. Haha, that makes sense, right? So we laugh because we get it. We're playing along. So, vulnerability is a great tool to have in your belt. That self-deprecation, is very playful. It lets your other scene partners in the audience, whether that audience is a stage audience or, at a dinner party, and I'm going to get back to that in a minute. But it lets them know they can let their guard down, right? Oh, okay, you're fine. You're very fun, and you're not a threat to my ego. I can relax, right? Audiences witnessing it love vulnerability. They love that low status. It makes them feel better about themselves, makes them feel superior, so they laugh and they like you, and it opens the door to bigger things to come. Like if that's true, well, what else is true? What else is going on? What else is wrong with this person? And now 2 caveats. Number 1, especially in public, you don't want to be so vulnerable as to be pathetic. One time I was a student of mine, and they were doing like a dating scene, like a Tinder date. And he was like, well, I'm not employed. I live with my parents. I don't have the best hygiene. I was like, whoa, 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 what's going on? And he was saying, well, I'm being vulnerable. I'm like, whoa, you're being pathetic. Your vulnerability, it's so much that you're pathetic and nobody would want to be with you. So you can't go too far, right? There's a limit there, and what that limit is up to you to find it. And the second thing is comfortability. Your comfortability with how vulnerable you can be. And if you have a hard time saying, "Oh yeah," saying how small you are down there, I think the first thing what I would suggest is to notice when you find resistance. Where does your resistance, like what's too much for you? Where is that level? And find your version of vulnerability. You don't have to go straight to sexual self-deprecation or being pathetic. You don't have to do that. It's I think it's better if you can, and better in the sense of like more playful. You have more opportunities to go places, more scenes that you can do, but you don't have to be that far. And you can deflect it. So in this previous example, like what else is small? You can say, "Hey, I know what you're thinking, but you'd be wrong about that." You can still be playful and be and have a bit of a maintain your ego. So I'm not here to say you must do these things. In fact, I said, I hope many times, I don't really have any rules. Maybe one about agreement, but I certainly, and maybe a second rule would be don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable, which if it makes you uncomfortable, don't do it. But all that said, I would encourage you not to be like a Donald Trump, where you're unable to even entertain the idea that you're not the absolute best at everything. In fact, I'm just laughing because he recently said in reference to the World Cup, he's like, "Hey, nobody knows anything. Nobody knows more about sports than I do. But even I didn't know you would get disqualified for the next game if you got a red card." It's like, okay, fair enough. Our goal when we're improvising is as much as possible to stay open, to stay playful, to be connected, and to be part of something bigger than us, right? And we should attempt to do that as much as possible because, for a myriad of reasons, of which ourselves is a chief reason. Like that's when people, report doing a scene and being like, "Wow, that was effortless. It felt great. I wasn't panicking. I didn't think about where I was going. I didn't want the floor to open up. I was just having a good time." You were in the moment because you were connected. But do not do what makes you uncomfortable. Something is uncomfortable, something gets awkward, weird, stop, time out, And if you're in front of an audience, and just leave the scene. Oh, hey, oh, look at the time. I got to go. You leave. And if it's well, yeah, I'm not going to go into that now, but get out of there. If you're uncomfortable, everybody will know you're uncomfortable and they'll want you to leave too. Okay, so the takeaways. Saying yes in scenes and playing the role the scene has decided that it wants you to play requires you to have some vulnerability often. That vulnerability unlocks playfulness. That playfulness unlocks even more playfulness, right? It's the rising tide raises all boats metaphor, but in this case, it's true. So I'm encouraging you to think about vulnerability. How can you be more vulnerable in scenes and open up the possibilities for you? Okay, that's the time I have today. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Ralph, socap.ca. Give me a shout. Maybe you think this was all nonsense and horse hooey. Let me know, and then tell me why, and I'll learn something. All right, thank you all. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.